Welcome to this month's edition of the In Touch magazine. Today we're here at London Zoo to talk about the 20,000 trees we plant every year in the Atlantic rainforest of Brazil. Every year when we go to IBC we give away 20,000 bags, and for each bag we plant a tree. We're joined today by Larry. Larry, thank you for taking the time to join us. You've come all the way over from Brazil and to talk about the project. Now, the project is more than just planting trees, isn't it?
That's right. The project is it's about saving the last remaining patches of this very endangered ecosystem we have in Brazil called the Atlantic forest. And that's the place where the last remaining species, especially the very endangered monkey called the black lion tamarin lives. So we are in a very rural area, a highly fragmented area, endangered area, where these very last monkeys, survive. And to save the monkey, we have to work with the local people. And this is a very organized group in Brazil called the Landless People. And we have to involve them in the very conservation process. So, not be able to save the species if you don't involve the people in the whole process.
Now, the deforestation of the rainforest is absolutely incredibly extreme. We've been looking at some of the pictures here of how the map has changed over the last few centuries.
That's right.
Now, as we look at the way that map has changed, we can see it's absolutely devastating. Now, you've been there for 12 years now. How many trees have you managed to plant back?
That's right. Going back to the deforestation process, this ecosystem, the Atlantic forest, has only 11% of the whole coverage of the original coverage remaining. But specifically where the lion tamarin survive, there's only 1% of the original forest left. So we have to put that forest back quickly, very quickly, in a way that the lion tamarins can still remain there, can still survive. The forest that remained is in small patches, isolate remains. So the animals that remain also are very isolated in these small patches. So they have to migrate, to disperse, for them to survive in the long term. For the genetic benefits, for them to migrate, they have to have forest corridors.
Well, you have two bits of forest which have been disconnected. You join the two together using a tree corridor. And now with approximately 20,000 trees, which is 1 year's IBC and 1 year's worth of trees,
right.
That forest has now grown back and the animals can now connect to each other again and therefore continue as part of the breeding program.
That's right. 20,000 trees is about 7 hectares of forest, which is about the size of about 6 to 7 soccer fields. And 7 hectares of forest is just enough to connect one of those remaining fragments in a width, wide enough, so we assure that the lion tamarins will just travel in between them.
So as well as saving local communities and helping local communities, you're able to save several species of animals and put trees back into the rainforest.
That's right. We are not only saving lion tamarins, we're also saving other species that belong to the same ecosystem. We want to make sure that forests will stay there in the long term. And how do we do that? Involving the local community that lives on the neighborhood. And how the only way to involve them and to make sure they adopt the projects is to make sure they have extra income by living close to the tamarins and by living close to the forest. And the only way we can make sure they have an income is by having them as the leaders of the scheme, of the leaders of the process, by providing us the seedlings, the trees that you are helping us to plant. So they are the people that actually plant the trees and grow the trees that are used in this whole big conservation project.
How many trees have you planted so far?
In the last 11 years, about 1.5 million.
And when you're taking an animal like the black lion tamarin and the jaguar, finding out where to plant the trees must be quite difficult. What technology do you use?
That's right. We are actually right now using these large cats, especially the jaguar and the ocelot and the puma, as in an approach that we call landscape detective. We first learn with the animals, then decide where to put the trees. How do we learn with animals? Tracking them, follow them in the rainforest with these radar collars. So it's first and see their dispersal routes, the travel routes. So we have to learn them first, and then so we avoid sitting at the table looking at a map, say let's put a corridor here. Let's put no. Let's ask the animal and let's see how they view the landscape, and then spend the money and the effort in a very effective way.
So when the visitors to IBC each year take one of our official show bags, it really is making a big difference to a whole community and to the environment in Brazil.
That's the only way. That's the only way we can make sure we have this long-term process of guaranteeing that the forest will just come back. Not only come back, but come back in the right place for the right species.
Excellent, Larry. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you very much for your help.